If you're thinking about joining the United States Army, there's really probably 5 steps, I would say, to that process as far as what you're gonna have to do to join the Army. Now, these steps can be a little bit out of order. This isn't exactly the same order that you may do it in, but commonly these are gonna be the 5 main steps you'll need to accomplish before you actually are in the United States Army. So let's talk about that. In my experience, I did these in a different order that I'm going to mention inside of here, and you're going to probably experience maybe a slightly different order. I'll even kind of outline that a little bit as far as like this one can easily be number 2 or number 3 or whatever. I'll make sure to explain that hopefully for you. So understand that it doesn't have to be in this same exact order for these 5, but nonetheless, these 5 things will have to be accomplished. By the way, this video is brought to you by the Carbinox Vortex watch. I'm gonna tell you guys a little bit more about them a little bit later on, but this is a good watch if you're gonna be someone in the military. So first thing, right? Doesn't necessarily have to be the first thing, but first thing on the list, you're gonna need a high school diploma or a GED. If you've already got one, cool, great. Otherwise, you're gonna need one of those 2. I even had someone recently talking about, hey, I'm thinking about dropping out of high school and getting my GED. Sure, you can do that. That's still one of the requirements you need. You do still need the high school diploma or GED. The Army did have a small little window where they were thinking about dropping that, but they quickly changed their mind on that. So you do still need one of the 2. So then getting into the second one, you got to talk to a recruiter. You're gonna have to go to a recruiter office and let them know what your intentions are. Your intention to try to get into this MOS, maybe even have some backup MOSs, what you want to do, all that kind of stuff. So that way they can start the paperwork, because there is some paperwork you're gonna have to fill out. The recruiter is gonna have to check to make sure you're even eligible in the first place, to see if you're even worth their time. Because if you have something like a disqualification from being able to join, because let's say you got a felony or something like that, that's probably gonna be something that's gonna disqualify you from being able to join, depending on what that exactly is for. Typically all felonies are usually disqualifications, but I don't know if recruiters have some kind of crazy loopholes that they can get around ones that are more minor, if that's a thing of having a minor felony. But nonetheless, they're gonna have to do all that background check. They're gonna have to check into your background and make sure that you're someone that is going to be eligible to spend their time on, right? To go through the next several steps to make sure to try to get you into the military. They don't want to have these surprises after they've already spent a lot of time with you trying to get you into the Army just for you to be disqualified because turns out you got arrested a couple years back for drug trafficking or something crazy, right? That's gonna, eliminate your possibilities from joining the Army. Like I said, these can be done a little bit out of order. You could easily just go and talk to a recruiter first before you even graduate high school. That's not a big deal, right? I would say that if you're like 13 years old, 12 years old, probably a little bit too early, but you're a junior in high school, maybe a senior in high school, and you're interested in joining the Army and you want to talk to that recruiter, sure, you could do that and get the ball rolling and everything. Especially if you're someone that's going to like the Reserves National Guard, that's going to do, the program where it allows you to go off to basic training between your junior and senior year, and then after you graduate high school, then you head off to finish the rest of your training. So then in that case, if that's someone you're looking, a program you're looking to do, then yeah, you definitely want to talk to them probably during your sophomore or junior year. Now, the third step that you're going to need is to take the ASVAB. You got to take that test to make sure you qualify to join the military. And you might do that ASVAB at MEPS, you might do that ASVAB at the recruiter station, you might do that ASVAB at school, at your high school type of thing. But nonetheless, that is still a pivotal point that you have to be able to pass that ASVAB, because that is what they're going to look at to determine your eligibility to join the military as far as, each branch, but also to determine what job you're going to be best fitted for, or what MOS in the Army you're going to be able to qualify for. Now, already with those 3 right there, they can easily be in the reverse order. In fact, that's how my situation went. I started off with taking the ASVAB first. I wasn't sure if I was going to join the military, but I was trying to get out of class and taking the ASVAB at school, so I took the ASVAB. Then after taking the ASVAB later on, I then talked to the recruiter, and then after talking to the recruiter and getting the process going, then I graduated from high school. So I did those in a completely different order, and you can experience that too, but nonetheless, those 3 items need to be done before you move on to the next step. Before we move on to the next step, I gotta tell you about this awesome watch here. I got an amazing smart watch from the people over at Carbinox. This is the Carbinox Vortex. Now, sure, it may just seem like any regular old smartwatch like you've seen before type of thing, but it's not. This thing is super durable and has a much longer battery life than your common smartwatch competitors out there. On a full charge, this watch can approximately last about 15 days, depending on how you're using it. But nonetheless, 15 days is quite a long time compared to a lot of competitors where you have to charge it every day, every other day. 15 days will definitely get you through a field problem if you need to wear it in the field. Depending on the field problem, I guess. But nonetheless, 15 days is usually much longer than any of the other competitors out there. But the battery life is also not the main thing. Durability. This thing is super durable. If you're someone in the military, you're someone who's rough on watches, someone who has maybe a type of rough lifestyle type of thing, this thing can handle it. You can bang it around, you can drop it, you can smack it around all over the place. It's super durable and you don't have to worry about breaking it. Of course, it's not indestructible, but your normal things, you bang it up against the wall, you're working on a Humvee, you're working on a military vehicle, you're crawling around in the dirt and stuff like that, it's fine. It'll be able to survive. All your typical features from a smartwatch, you can track your workouts, you can utilize multiple apps to check your heart rate, to check your blood oxygen levels, you can start and stop music, all sorts of functionality like you would expect from a smartwatch. The biggest thing I feel for this watch is that battery life and that durability. That's probably a very key thing, especially for individuals in the military that need to make sure they have a reliable watch that can get them through maybe a week-long field problem, smack it around a little bit and still be fine and still be able to come through that field problem with having a battery still left. Because it's very often pretty hard to charge electronics when you're on the field, and with a battery life of 15 days, heck, you can get through an easy 1 week field problem probably. Now I also did do a deeper dive onto this watch, so if you want a little bit more details, I'll have a link down in the description box down below to a video that I did that has like a full-on review and features and all sorts of stuff on the watch. So if you want to check that out, check it out down in the description box down below. Also, there's a link down in the description box down below for you to purchase the watch and even save a little bit if you buy it off of Amazon. So check out the links, check out the Carbonox Vortex. Now let's move into the fourth step, which usually is going to be the fourth one in usually this order, because usually you got to knock out the first three before you can get to the fourth one, with maybe a little bit of a variant of maybe the ASVAB part type of thing, but you got to go off to MEPS. Now you're gonna have a MEPS location that may not be in your hometown. It may be a couple hours, into down the road, maybe another state, whatever the case is for wherever your nearest MEPS is at. But that is the process you're gonna have to go through to be able to get basically checked on through the medical doctors and all sorts of other things for screenings to make sure that you're gonna be able to come into the military. This is something all branches have to do. I mean, you have to go see the doctor to make sure you don't have any kind of medical conditions that are going to prevent you from being able to, do physical things in the Army or in the military, things that are gonna prevent you from being able to serve in the military. They're gonna do like a drug screen to make sure you can pass that, vision test, color blindness to check to see if you got any kind of color blindness, all sorts of evaluations, tests to make sure that you're gonna be able to handle being in the military. This is an all-day process. You'll probably get picked up maybe early in the morning, maybe the day before, spend the night in a hotel, and then early in the morning start the process to go through all the screening and be able to get checked on to make sure that you're even capable of being in the military in the first place. But when all of that process is said and done, all the medical screening, the drug tests, all that stuff, at the very end, you'll sit down with someone to go over your kind of like eligibility as far as based on your ASVAB results and all the screenings you did during MEPS. What jobs do you qualify for? In the case of the Army, you'll get to pick your specific MOS, your specific job you want, as long as you qualify for it and there's availability, because you can be in situations where you qualify for the MOS you want, but there is no availability for that MOS, so you can't get it. So qualifying for the MOS is not enough. You have to also have the availability of going into the MOS, but that's what you'll do at the end. You'll sit down with someone to be able to see what MOS you qualify for and then try to lock in a contract. But at the end of that MEPS process, you'll be able to, know what MOS you're going in at and know when you're going to be shipping off to go to basic training. Now, there, in some cases, can be another step to this. I guess we can call it like 4 alpha, 4A, right? Another sub-step of this that some people may have to do, and that is possibly a waiver process. If there is something that, hasn't necessarily disqualified you completely type of thing, it's something that's waiverable, now you have to go through the process, try to waiver, and waivers are very tricky. There's no guarantee you're gonna be able to get granted for it, no guarantee you're gonna get denied for it. You may talk to somebody who has the exact same situation as you, and they get a waiver, and you don't. It's a very tricky kind of process, so you just kind of have to go through the motions and hope for the best. So that would usually be like a sub part of part 4 is if you have to get a waiver, then yeah, you have to get that waiver granted before you're gonna be able to get that date to be able to ship off. Timelines for waivers, also very tricky. It could take maybe a week, it could take several months. I've known people that maybe got their waivers taken care of in like a week or 2, but I've also heard from some people that it took them several months to be able to get that waiver completed. So no telling really what that timeline is going to be for how long it might take you to get that waiver completed. But after that waiver is completed, or you didn't need a waiver in the first place, then you move on to the last and final step, Step 5. Step 5 is to go back to MEPS. You might have like a couple weeks, couple months, several months or whatever in between you going to MEPS to get your contract locked in and then your ship out date. It really depended on what you kind of locked in with that individual for your ship out date. Sometimes they have early ship out dates available to you. If it's like less than 30 days, sometimes that qualifies for like a quick ship bonus and you can get some extra money for shipping out really quickly. But if you don't want to ship out really quickly, or maybe it's not available, then your ship out date may be a month out, 2 months out, 3 months out, 4 months out, whatever was basically available when you locked in your contract. Because it's going to come down to available slots, as far as available slots for your basic training, but they also need to line it up with your AIT. That way, if you're going to go off to basic and you're going to graduate, let's say in August of whatever year, then you need to make sure that, you know, soon after there's going to be an AIT, which is your MOS training, your job training, is going to be available shortly after you graduate from basic training. And if it's not, then that can kind of throw some problems in the situation where they may have to schedule your basic training start date a little bit later, so that way it will kind of work out to where shortly after you graduate basic training, there is an available AIT school to be able to move on to. Now, when you go back to MEPS, this typically may be the day before, depending on how far away your MEPS is. It may be the day of, just early in the morning. It really just depends possibly on a lot of parameters and a lot of different kind of policies and stuff for those local MEPS stations. But a pretty common one is that you might go the day before, spend the night in a hotel, and then early in the morning get up and head over to the MEPS that maybe is like right across the street, right next door. Or maybe there's a bus or a shuttle that'll take you over to that MEPS that, you know, is going to pick you up. But nonetheless, pretty commonly it's going to be probably the morning before or the day before you'll stay in a hotel, and then the next morning go back to MEPS. Now for this time when you go back to MEPS, this one is to get you your packet and all your information you need to ship off to basic training. Commonly they might also even do like another swear in, which is supposed to be the more official one. That may depend on your local MEPS whether or not they do that, but the main thing here is that you're going to get your packet that you need to take with you off to basic training. So they do some basic stuff, they get you your packet, maybe you got a flight, maybe you got a bus, depending on how far away your basic training location is at, and you get loaded up onto that bus to get over to the airport, or simply ride the bus all the way to the basic training. Because that packet holds out all your information inside of it that you need to hand off to your drill sergeants, to those people that are processing you at basic training. So going to MEPS for the last and final time is the last and final step of these 5-step processes. So you'll basically go to MEPS twice. I mean, the first time is an all-day process. Second one is just probably maybe an hour or so in the morning just to kind of get you your information before you actually ship off. I think I've also heard of some cases where they do another drug test at MEPS, so that may kind of vary. You might have to do a second drug test on the ship out day. I think I've heard some people tell me that they had to do that, but that may just depend. So there you go, 5 steps, right? Definitely the first 3 could be in any order you want. Pretty much after you do those first 3 steps in whatever order, then you go off to MEPS, and then you go off to MEPS for one final time to actually ship off. So those last 2, pretty much going to be always the last 2, but the first 3 can be in a different order. My veterans out there that are watching this, what order did you do it in? Well, you know, did you start off, you know, talking to a recruiter first, then graduate high school, and then took the ASVAB, or whatever you did? Let me know down in the comment section down below. And for those of you that are interested in joining the Army, what questions do you have? Maybe I can answer. Maybe some of my fellow viewers that have a little bit of experience can even, you know, reply to your comments. So make sure you're dropping some comments down in the comment section down below. Now, actually in my process, I think I actually went to MEPS 3 times, because I went to MEPS the first time to do the actual screening and everything else I had to do. I didn't like the MOS they offered me, and I was going to try to turn it down. I went back to MEPS a second time to go, okay, I'll take it, but they didn't have it available, so then I ended up getting 88 mic, and then the last time to actually ship out. So I actually went to MEPS 3 times, but some people's experiences may vary. Maybe you go even more because the process is a little bit more difficult, especially maybe with waivers or some other things you have to get reevaluated for. But you know, definitely twice. You're going to go at least twice, the initial one and then the last one to ship off. One last thing I need you to do before this video ends is take a look down below. Are you subscribed to this channel? If you're not, maybe think about subscribing. The thing I like to do here on this channel is inform you. Honestly, you know, I don't care if you join the Army or don't join the Army. I have nothing to benefit from that. You watching the video is what benefited me, whether it was to talk crap about the Army or tell you about how amazing the Army can be at times or whatever. It doesn't really matter to me, but make sure you're subscribed so that way you can get those honest opinions from someone like me who has served quite a bit of time in the Army and still actually currently works with Army soldiers even in my civilian job. So make sure you're subscribed, make sure you're hitting that thumbs up. Thanks for hanging out, thanks for watching. I'm Christopher Chaos, and I'll see you next time. See ya. Now you might also be curious as far as what are the requirements for joining the Army? Well, I got a video right here that tells you about it for 2024 and probably even for 2025 and 2026 unless the Army makes some drastic changes. So go check that video out if that's the information you need right now.